potentially sad, wistful ideas about the search for life in space is this idea that Sagan popularized, it wasn't originally his, that we might not find life because it has a way of burning up its own resources or wrecking its environment or just getting so technologically advanced that it
Well, this was nuclear war in the good old days.
Or maybe it's climate change, and so that's one sense in which it's potentially tied. The two topics are tied: space and what's happening on Earth. And so I want to just ask on this topic, Administrator, you've changed your mind on climate change. You say it's human caused. What do you want to do now at NASA to help us better understand this? And I also want to talk about, I mean, I guess you guys have talked about this topic a lot together. I'd like to hear about that.
So here's what we know. We know that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. And we know that we as humans have put more of it into the atmosphere than ever before. And therefore, we are responsible for a lot of the warming that we're seeing of the planet right now. What NASA does, we do not want NASA to get involved in telling politicians what the solutions to the problems are. Because if we do that, we become very partisan, very political, very...
Scientists don't like to do that either.
So. We want to do dispassionate science. We want to build the sensors that are studying the Earth. We want to make all of that data and all that information available to the public. We want people to do their own research on the data. We want researchers to test each other's hypotheses. And so NASA is committed to dispassionately providing the data and the science and letting policymakers determine what to do about what we learn.
Including if they find something really bad, like it's going a lot faster than we thought, there's another feedback, they just let the chips fall where they may. That's how it's going to go?
It's up to the policymakers.
No, I mean the researchers, you know, NASA's researchers can just, I mean, imagine they find another methane feedback in the Arctic or something like that.
Well, speaking as a scientist, researchers are going to research. That's what they do. And people who are keenly interested in those kinds of questions are going to pursue them with all the passion that they have, not only on Earth, but also trying to understand how Mars turned out the way Mars did and Venus turned out the way Venus did, and yet they're all in our solar system. So you're not going to stop the researchers. They are going to passionately pursue these questions to try to understand how our Earth is changing, why is it changing, and looking towards planets out beyond ours, perhaps get an understanding of maybe how did we get here? Where are we going?
What happened at these other planets? So for me, of a certain age, it was a convergence of, let's say, Carl Sagan and James Pollock writing a computer program saying what would happen if all these nuclear weapons went off at the same time. You'd have a big cloud of darkness. People looking for oil off the coast of Mexico found this huge crater. And then principally James Hansen was looking at Venus and realized the strength of the greenhouse effect on Venus. And these three things came together in my lifetime. But it took a decade for people to realize that human-caused climate change was happening. And so it's this slow motion problem. And NASA has a huge role in showing us what's happening as the slow motion speeds up. So thank you, Administrator Bridenstine, for leading on this issue, because the data you have to respect the facts. It's just very important.
Well,
but here's what I was saying: is studying other planets is how we found out what's going on our planet.
Yeah.
And the cost of exploring those planets is so low compared to what we learn. Comparing the climate of Mars to Venus to Earth, it's amazing.
To that point, we also know, because of work that NASA has done, we know that Mars used to have a really strong magnetosphere, and it used to have a really thick atmosphere, and it used to be covered. Two-thirds of it was covered in an ocean. Something happened.
What happened?
The question is, what happened? Was it 1 billion years ago? Was it 2 billion years ago? And ultimately, how did that happen? And studying other planets, studying other planets helps us understand our own.
Yeah. So now we're calling Mars an ex-ocean, a former ocean planet, because there's so much, there's so much evidence of water flow. And
so